Big Ten colors for the banner tonight for the Voice of College Football live call-in show. The Big Ten, big standing for big money. Big money as in billions and billions and billions and billions for the next 7 years from CBS, NBC, and continued by Fox. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, our live call-in show for a Thursday, 6 Eastern. We lead this right into our Miami show with a wholesome one at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the Miami channel. Maybe the Big Ten is taking its cues from the Voice of College Football, where we network together and we provide that synergy between our channels and piece together our programming schedule that feeds off each other. We appreciate everybody being here. I hope you know that. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your knowledge. We appreciate your passion more than anything, probably your passion as college football fans. And we are here tonight to talk college football with you. Doesn't have to be about the Big Ten. Doesn't have to be about this mega deal, although we will address it off the top. 7 years, at least $7 billion coming to the Big Ten via Fox. They are the number one partner and still contribute the most money in this new deal. And then CBS, then NBC in regards to the number of games and therefore the quality of the games and also the amount of the payment going to the Big Ten. So let's look at it. Kevin Warren worked as an executive in the NFL for a number of years with the Rams, the Vikings, I believe another team as well. And he took this model from the NFL. It's going to make it clear for the college football fan, for the Big Ten college football fan, to know when the games are going to be on and where they're going to be on. This is taking it back and simplifying the viewing schedule for Big Ten football fans to know, hey, if I want to watch Big Ten football from noon all the way through the rest of the day, then I'm going to watch the big noon kickoff right into the big noon game on Fox, because that's going to be the Big Ten masterpiece of the day. That is going to be the featured game, 3:30 on CBS. That's 3:30 Eastern time, right into NBC's primetime window. And then more than likely, consider this, with USC and UCLA hosting games, I got to think that, of course, USC and UCLA, they're not going to be burdened with the late window all the time. There is not going to be a late window all the time, because unless the conference continues to expand and expand on the West Coast with Oregon and Washington, let's say, maybe Stanford and Cal, that late night window is going to be present occasionally. But there is no way that USC and UCLA partnered with the Big Ten and came on board with the Big Ten to hold down that 10:30 time slot all the time. So with only two schools in the Big Ten, two teams in the conference from the West Coast, expect those Big Ten network games to include USC and UCLA, but not all the time. They're not going to make USC and UCLA play the late night game all the time because the viewers are not there. Even on the West Coast, the viewers are not there. Even though that's prime time there, the college football fan is not there at that time. That's been proven over and over and over. But we have seen the strategy from the TV networks and from the conferences in the past. They are going to move people in certain directions looking for long-term impact. So expect out of these games that are going online, and there's going to be 8 games per season from the Big Ten that's going to be on Peacock that can only be accessed by having a subscription. Are those going to be the best games? No, they're not going to be the best games, because the Big Ten and Fox and CBS and NBC, well, those 3 networks are paying for the best games, and ESPN wants the best games to be available for everyone. But to feature Peacock and to start to move an audience over there, out of those 8 games per season, I would expect 1 or 2 to be pretty decent games to say, oh, all of a sudden, okay, Wisconsin, Michigan State, you really like that game? It's on the Peacock. It's online. And yes, a lot of Rutgers, a lot of Illinois, a lot of Indiana on the Peacock. But, okay, the last game of the season, got a nice little Minnesota-Iowa game later in the season for you. And if you want to watch that game, and it factors into the Big Ten Western Division race, it's on Peacock. Again, we've seen this strategy consistently out of the networks when they deliver, when they introduce a new platform, i.e. ESPN, the SEC network. We're going to put the worst games on the SEC network, but we'll save a few gems. Maybe not the marquee game of the week, but maybe a third place game that would have gone to ESPN2, let's say. Put it on the SEC network to drive people over there, to let them know we're going to have quality products here as well. Would love to get all your comments and thoughts on this one because it's enormous, and I believe it protects Notre Dame. Basically, on gathering what I've seen, even though Notre Dame and the Big Ten will be now playing both on the same network of NBC, this helps Notre Dame. This helps protect Notre Dame. This actually brings eyeballs to the Notre Dame game. And until I dug a little bit deeper to see that Notre Dame will continue to have primetime games, even though the primetime slot is going to be heavy Big Ten, the primetime slot on NBC, it's not exclusive that it's going to be Big Ten games. They're going to continue, NBC is going to continue to give Notre Dame prime time as well. Without that primetime territory, if Notre Dame was relegated to 3:30 in the afternoon on NBC, then I would think, okay, the writing is on the wall to show us that Notre Dame's not going to play in the afternoon all the time. But no, it was stipulated here and outlined on the few articles that I've read that while the Big Ten in primetime on NBC is going to be a thing, it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to the Big Ten. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish will be in primetime on NBC still. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football, everyone. Let's check out your comments, and also I will provide the link. We want to hear from all of you. Please join the show. Call in. You can include the camera, not include the camera. That's completely up to you. So you know from watching us over the past, 6 weeks that we've gone to a different call-in format. And I don't want anyone to be shy about joining us. If you don't want to use the camera, don't use the camera. We just need to hear. We just need to be able to hear you. And I've dropped the link because, again, I forgot to drop it in the description section of the video, but there it is. It's in the chat. Please join the show. And there you have the link to join the show. The one thing that I ask is when you join the show, you're going to be backstage, and please provide in the private chat your name and either who you root for or where you're calling from. Will, you don't need to do that. I know it's Will. I know it's Notre Dame fan Will. But for others, we want to see some new blood, some fresh blood, some new faces here at the Voice of College Football. So I would encourage those people that have yet to call us in the past, that you would do so today. Will, how's it going today?
We are safely independent, Mark. And we have our TV deal with NBC. We'll be able to play Michigan again. It's great on that front. Recruiting front, we took a blow. We took a harsh blow as Keon Keeley decommitted and is most likely going to Nick Saban in Alabama. And it hurts. And it hurts, Mark.
It's interesting that you note that as I get a call coming in from somebody. Anyway, because I was looking at a clip that we cut with Brian Driscoll from Irish Breakdown today from a few weeks ago, and he was not guaranteeing that Keon Keeley was not going to decommit from Notre Dame, but Ohio State fans were wanting him to go in their direction, but he was pretty well confident. He's not going to Ohio State. If he's going to decommit from Notre Dame, he's staying in the South. And there you go. That's a big loss for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman.
Yes, but I think, like, I'm not blaming Keon for this at all. But honestly, I think he's making the wrong decision. Like, I don't trust Pete Golding as a defensive coordinator. I think he's only riding off the talent. I don't think he develops his players as good as Alabama fans says he does. Like, I think Kirby Smart was great. Jeremy Pruitt, an idiot for doing what he did at Tennessee, great defensive coordinator. But I'm not sold on Pete Golding as a great DC. Do you think he's...
So Keeley, before we get to that, Keeley has decommitted from Notre Dame, but he is not committed to Bama.
Well, Brian Driscoll thinks he's going to Bama, based on what I heard today.
Okay.
And it just frustrates me because you can see, like, obviously Will Anderson, he's great. He's at the same position that Keon is. But so is Isaiah Foskey at Notre Dame. And I feel like Keeley can still be a high, really ranked player in the draft and be at Notre Dame. I think the reason that he's going to Alabama is because people are telling him that you can't get a high draft pick and be a defensive end at Notre Dame. But, like, you can see, like, if Isaiah Foskey has the season that he's having this year, he's going to be a mid-first round pick. And if he takes the next step, which we all hope he's going to do, then he'll probably be a top 10 pick. So it just frustrates me that people were telling this to Keon and that he made this decision.
Well, I do think that it's pretty well confirmed that while Alabama produces a ton of NFL talent, that it doesn't succeed to the degree that that the talent would lead you to believe in the draft selection. Yeah, the position in the draft.
Yeah, but like a lot of people are saying, like, this is the end for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's still a small program, and Notre Dame is not a small program. We're still having, most likely, we're going to have the best class that we've had, at least since 2013, and it most likely will be better than that. So people were like coming in, trolling, saying that Notre Dame's over. We're not over. It's just one speed bump in the road, and it hurts, but it's what it is.
So understand this, everyone, that, and I think Will understands this, that if Notre Dame is recruiting well, Notre Dame is knocking it out of the park. Notre Dame was recruiting well year to year under Brian Kelly, and it was only getting better. Now they've actually upgraded. But also keep in mind that the higher grade of player that you recruit and get commitments from, then you are in more battles with Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia and on down the line. And you are going to lose a large portion of those, or you are going to be in a fight for those, and you're going to have decommitments that flip to those kind of schools more so than when you are in recruiting efforts against Michigan State and Wisconsin and pick your team that's on a different level.
Yeah. And it's just like, this one hurted more because we had Keon committed as a 3-star. Like, this was more than a year ago. He was a 3-star. And, like, we wanted him forever. But it felt like Alabama was, like, the hot new girl that came through and just stole our boy. So, from us. So, I don't know. It just hurts. But I think we'll be okay. We just can't have any more injuries this offseason. This offseason we've been hurting, so.
Yeah, that's been rough to watch.
Yeah. Especially for Avery Davis, who came back for his 6th year. I mean, he's had a history of injury troubles, but this was going to be his 6th year. He was going to be the star. He was much better coached this year by Kentucky than he ever was under Del Alexander. And to see him get injured, it just hurts. You feel for a guy like that.
Of course, these guys work all off season to get the opportunity to only play 12 or 13 football games. And like we've talked about many times here, it's become a job. The job. They work at it like a job. They put in the type of hours that you do when you have a full-time job. And then to get all the way up within a few weeks of the season and a huge game and Now it's going to be a whole rehab process to get ready for 2023, which is more than a year away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but he has to get medically cleared. He has to get like cleared by some NCAA committee to come back for a 7th year, which he can if he wants to, but he might just go back and just use his degree and just get a job and become a regular person like you and me are. So,
yeah,
who knows what happened to Avery? It hurt. Yeah, that one hurt because we're just really thin on the wide receiver position. So, like, if we have any more injuries, we're kind of screwed. So.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Will, anything else?
Oh, that's about it, Mark. Hopefully some of these callers can discuss how great being in the Big Ten is and all that. These USC fans that have been in my mentions, these Michigan fans. But we're happy where we are, and we're going to be playing them still. So.
And some of these people that want to talk about it, they can also talk about it with you and a whole slew of other people, about 65 other people in Discord.
Oh, yes. I'll be in Discord tonight. Should be fun. Another fun night. So, yeah, I'll see you guys all there.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate you being here.
Have a good one.
Looks like you got a beautiful day there. Enjoy it. All right. We got 2 callers on the line. I'm going to take them out of order because I would like caller 1 to let us know where you're calling from, what's your name. Need those items. So we're going to go to UCLA fan Chris first and foremost. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm good, Mark. Can you hear me all right? Just want to make sure since it's my first time calling in.
Yeah, we've got you just fine.
All right. Well, I want to let Will know that I'm playing the world's tiniest violin for the loss of 5-star recruits as I watch a coaching staff that has 5 commits and effectively put itself on sanctions and isn't using 12 of its own scholarships right now. So things are rough in the UCLA recruiting world. But what I really want to talk about was the Big Ten stuff, because I thought the most interesting tweet or thing I've seen about it is I don't know if you saw the Brett McMurphy tweet.
No.
Where he talks about the fact that there are contract escalators that may increase the value to nearly 10 billion. And people seem to be deriving from that. And part of his tweet is that of his sources saying that they're not done expanding, right? It's not like a necessarily closed door. Now that the contract's in place, they've kind of seemed to systematically set it up where, they're not necessarily like the ACC is stuck, right? Because of the grant of rights or whatnot. And it seems to be what the Big has kind of set itself up for is, the door's not necessarily closed. I don't know anything more than that. I just thought it was interesting.
So that is extremely interesting. So when you have confidence in your product, you go into a negotiation and sometimes you're able to come out with a deal that will serve you down the line if you come through. So the Big Ten is banking on ratings that come through and meet or exceed the expectations of the contract. And then number 2, to your point there, and Brett McMurphy obviously tweeted about it, and it was one of the reasons I was curious and just didn't have the time because of other obligations this afternoon to look into reports that I was hearing. Okay, $7 billion up front, or not up front, but $7 billion as a flat rate floor, and then I was hearing $10 billion. So you explained it right there that, conference expansion, the Big Ten, this will give the Big Ten the opportunity to bring in other schools and not be so tight to the vest in regards to the revenue distribution, possibly negating their ability to go out and get additional schools and lessen or lower that distribution per school because they're going to bring extra value and extra coverage and geographic footprint to those networks and different media markets if they bring in Stanford, Washington, Oregon, whomever else.
Right. And the other kind of clever thing that it seemed to me that they did was, with it only being the 7-year deal, they're going to get another bite at the apple before the SEC's contract is even up. Right. So not only is it record money, but assuming things go well and the TV networks are getting what they want out of it, and inflation happens and whatnot, there's less of a chance of being stuck in this longer term deal if contracts keep going the way that they're going, getting another deal in 7 years even before the SEC gets its next deal.
That's another great point. And that's the reason why you have TV marketing people. You have other people that are expert in other components within the deal. You have accountants, you have all sorts of people that give their slice of expertise, and you are able to come out with a deal that suits you well. That's why all those people are highly paid and experts in their field and have risen to pretty much the top of their field, because you want to come out with a deal that's more like what the Big Ten just negotiated and less like what the ACC last negotiated.
It's certainly refreshing to see competence from the top of a conference rather than what I've been used to before under the Larry Scott regime. So long as the UC Regents don't screw this up for us at UCLA. I don't know if you followed that anything. I don't think there's like a very strong chance of them actually do anything in regard to us coming like 5% or something from people smarter than me talking about it when I've read about it as like the chance that they actually do something to block us. But if you watched or heard any of the stories or quotes from that thing that happened yesterday with the UC Regents, it's pretty funny how little they actually know anything about what's going on.
Well, I'm not aware of the most recent events. So what happened yesterday?
They had like an actual public meeting, whereas there's like a presentation of what it does financially. And they're mostly obviously concerned with like how this impacts Cal. And it's, but like I don't have quotes offhand for you. I wish I did, but the very strong, like, misunderstanding from them of what's actually going on or the situation at all. It's kind of funny. But with that, I will bid you adieu, and thanks for bringing me on, and try to call again sometime if you'll have me. Thanks.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much for joining the show. Appreciate that. Love to hear from the first-time callers. And here we go to Aiden calling us from the capital of the state of Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that, Eric. See, what happens is it's like sometimes when I click on certain comments that are made in the live chat, if you guys are commenting constantly and the thing's moving, like I'll click on one, and by the time it takes the click, it's moved on to something else, and I post a comment that I don't want to post. So what happened there? I clicked on the box that was our guy Aiden, but it turned out to be Eric. So we apologize, Eric, but we need you to wait in line, and you understand that and know that. But we got Aiden on the line from the capital of Ohio, the Buckeye State.
What's good, buddy? How you been?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm just chilling in my basement. So I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. Do you think Ohio State and Michigan could both make the CFP this year?
Of course they could. I don't think it's likely. I know certain people that are predicting that. I believe our buddy Steve Dace at Michigan Podcast is predicting both Ohio State and Michigan to make it, even after Michigan defeats Ohio State in Columbus, according to him.
I mean, I honestly see no way that Michigan beats Ohio State in the shoe.
Okay, that's a pretty pessimistic view from a fan.
that's not me being pessimistic. It's just that, in my
Well, sure it is.
opinion, even if Michigan is as good as they were last year,
Yeah.
if not better,
Yep.
I just think Ohio State's gonna be so much better from the year before with the combination of a couple things. Jim Knowles coming in and a CJ Stroud going into year number 2. Plus, it's at home, so I really don't know if Michigan can beat Ohio State in the shoe. But what I was gonna say, if they lose 10 to at the 10-13 point mark, could they both get in? Obviously, I'm not predicting that because there's still a lot that would have to happen in conference championship week for that to happen.
So, Aiden, before we get into that, real quick, just want to make sure, because you came on here saying there's basically a snowball's chance in hell that Michigan can win in Columbus. You basically said it's guaranteed Ohio State wins this game. Like the Michigan football team is some FCS school going into Columbus or something. But now you seem to be backing off on, it's probably not going to happen. It's unlikely. So where do we stand on this? Are you guaranteed a loss in Columbus, or you just don't think it's possible, probable?
I just don't think it's possible.
You don't think it's possible? Okay. I find that very odd.
I'm not guaranteeing
I find that very
loss
odd that a Michigan fan who just won the Big Ten championship and beat Ohio State by 2 scores doesn't think it's possible. Like Ohio State is like an NFL team or something. Okay, that's fine. I just want to settle the score. I just want to know where we stand on that. So you are taking it. You know what? I'm going to say this, Aiden. If you think your team does not have a chance of winning in Columbus, then why would you want to go to the college football playoff?
No, I'm just saying if we can keep it close.
You just want to go keep it close.
Depending on what would happen in the conference championship week, and if we go and if we win the rest of the games, do you think they both could get in?
Well, your non-conference is not going to help you.
Yeah, I know.
Your schedule is not going to be that strong. What are you going to have wins? You're going to have wins against Penn State, Iowa, Michigan State. And maybe Nebraska is going to be decent. We don't know. But those are going to be your 3 big wins. Penn State, Michigan State, Iowa on the road. And what do you expect out of those 3 teams? I'm expecting a lot of 8-4 material there.
Penn State could be good with Sean Clifford coming back in the second year of that system.
Sure. Penn State's very talented. But again, I just don't trust your resume when the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is looking at a Michigan resume after they lost in Columbus against Ohio State, did not go to a conference championship game, therefore did not win a conference.
I mean, it's just something interesting to think about. I just want to get your opinions on. But speaking of Michigan's non-conference schedule, I'm still wondering why we can't get one Power 5 game in there.
So something happened to the agreement with UCLA, correct? I think there was a Michigan-UCLA game that got canceled, and UCLA's non-conference schedule is even worse than Michigan's. It's horrendous. Yes, that's why we need scheduling to be taken care of by a governing body. I would love to head up that governing body. I would love to take over scheduling college football. It should be taken over by a governing body.
Because the same thing's happening with Georgia and Oklahoma. I think in 2024, Georgia plays Oklahoma in a non-conference game. Well, of course, and I could be wrong on this, the fact that Georgia plays Oklahoma in 2024, you might have to correct me on that. But so it's either going to have to be rescheduled or just canceled, which is why we can't schedule games 50 years in advance and expect it to work.
So this is also what I'm guessing happened, and I'm finding some information here, is that, of course, in the Big Ten, there are 9 games played in conference. That means half the teams play 4 at home, 5 on the road. The other half play 5 at home, 4 on the road. So if it's a year in which Michigan, in this example, only had 4 home games in conference, and then this was a year in which they were supposed to play UCLA on the road, this is what I think happened. So that's only 6 home games, 6 at home, 6 on the road. And schools like Michigan, because of the amount of money that's made at home, want to play at least 7 home games. And I think what happened there, and you would think the next logical thought process would be, well, they should have known that, right? Well, the Big Ten, after COVID, like readjusted the schedule. So that might have changed this. Although this article was this was in 2019 that this article came out where it says Michigan football cancels UCLA series, adds home games for 22 and 23. Again, they're looking to play 7 home games, so that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
But again, I would like to see at least one like middle of the road Power 5 team, even if you did cancel the UCLA
Sure.
series.
Michigan was willing to pay UCLA $1.5 million to get out of that contract. Well, all we can do is watch Michigan play scrimmage games for 3 weeks and then join the rest of college football in October. So that's what's going to happen, Aiden. I don't like it either.
I don't like that. This might be a little bit off topic, but I don't like that college football schedules 10 games like 10 years in advance. And then when the CFP comes around, they say strength of schedule matters.
Well, it does. You just need to hope that you override that with just winning outright, winning all the games, or at least only losing 1 game, and then hoping that the Big Ten is as strong as it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but all we can do is watch and see who the quarterback's going to be by the end of it.
All right, Aiden. Anything else you got for us?
No, I'm going to let you go. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We got Michael on the line. Boiler up, Michael. How are you?
Hey, other than being in the hospital, I'm all right, Mark, but I should be getting out of here probably the next day or so. Got an infection I'm dealing with right now.
You certainly don't need to tell us anything that you don't want to tell us, but certainly we want to wish you the best and thoughts and prayers your way. So are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just got some stuff I was wanting to do, but I can't do that. Hey, I got a question in reference to the new deal that was finalized, that they came out today and stuff like that. How much of an impact do you think that's going to hurt? I mean, I know you focus mostly on football, but how much do you think that's going to hurt the Big Ten as far as not being as far as like with the basketball portion of it and the other sports that they usually have done on ESPN? And do you think ESPN is going to go hard and heavy in 2030 when the contract expires?
Okay. So the pluses to Big Ten football far outweigh the minuses here. But there is going to be an impact on the Big Ten not being on ESPN, because there are people out there, you know them, I know them, that love watching a football game on Saturday afternoon, but all they know is that they flip on the TV and watch football. And if, I run into these people almost every Saturday because they're friends of mine, and I got to let them know, okay, well, the game's going to be over here, or this is the reason why the game's here, because it's this particular conference or whatever, or why aren't you watching this game? It's a much better game. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't know. It just automatically flip on ESPN. I'm going to watch football Saturday afternoon. It's on ESPN. Boom. I'm going to flip it on. Whatever game's on, I'm going to watch it. And so people aren't accustomed to watching football on NBC first and foremost. And then they're also not necessarily accustomed to, if they live in the Midwest and just want to watch Big Ten football, they're obviously not going to know about CBS. So even though we think everyone's got the information, it's out there, your average viewer doesn't keep up with this the way you and I do. And then also just the Big Ten, regardless of what ESPN says about its journalistic integrity, they're going to serve the viewer. They're going to serve themselves by trying to make as much money and draw as much attention to the SEC and the conferences that they cover, and not the Big Ten. And this is the first time that ESPN has not had a contract with all 5 conferences. So yes, they can't ignore the Big Ten, but there is no way that ESPN is going to cover the Big Ten as much without having a game-by-game contract over the next 7 years like they have in the past. So that is going to compromise the Big Ten's coverage on ESPN. There is no question about that. But to the basketball end of it, I think, to your point, without knowing, I've got a good grasp on basketball coverage on television, even though I don't watch basketball anymore. And even more so, to your point, Michael, people watch ESPN for college basketball. You've got to be a pretty ardent college basketball fan to know that there are games on FS1 and there are games on all these other outlets, because ESPN has been the owner of college basketball since the early 80s. So people just watch ESPN to watch college basketball. And for the Big Ten to be completely off that platform, I think it's going to hurt the basketball more than it's going to hurt the football.
Okay. Now, what about as far as like the other sports? I know they also do volleyball. I know they do baseball and stuff in the past also, but the contract expires.
Well, we're losing you to a certain extent, Michael, but I think I got your point that there are other sports obviously involved in all this. And again, if you believe that there's softball on, if whether that's you have an attachment to a certain university, a certain school playing softball in the spring, your first inclination is going to be, okay, they get a big national game, I know that they're on. You're going to go to ESPN and go through their networks. Or if you just like watching college softball, for example, you're going to watch ESPN first. That's where you're going to check out first. So there's going to have to be an education, and there's going to have to be a promotional campaign that's really going to hammer home. And you could expect it, especially late in the Big Ten football season, but especially throughout the entire Big Ten football season, that's going to say, we've got men's and women's basketball on Fox. Here it is, or on CBS, or whatever the outlets. I did not read the basketball portion of that, so I don't know where they're going to be in basketball, if they're going to be on all 3. But there is going to be promotion. You're going to get sick of seeing promos on Big Ten football games that tell you where the rest of Big Ten sports are going to be.
And my last question is, who do you think has the easier schedule this year, Purdue or Michigan?
Just in the Big Ten or overall?
Overall.
Purdue's got a game at Syracuse, right?
Mm.
And who do they play in the Eastern Division? You still with us, Michael?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Who does Purdue play in the East?
They play Maryland, Penn State, and Indiana.
I'm going to say that, they both play Penn State. So Michigan has Ohio State and Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
But Purdue's got a lineup of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa.
Nebraska.
They both play Nebraska. They both play Iowa. That's a close call. That's a close call. Off the top of my head, I would say Michigan slightly.
Mm-hmm. I kind of tend to agree with it, because I also figure in their non-conference schedule too.
Why do we need to compare Michigan and Purdue's schedules?
No, it's just everybody's saying Michigan just has an easy schedule this year, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So does, and I'm feeling Purdue does, and I just want to get your point of view on who might have the easier schedule.
Yeah, I would just take Purdue's schedule and put it next to Michigan, cross out all the teams that they both play, and then look at the remaining teams. We know that Purdue has a tougher non-conference game, but it's not that tough. But still, they got to go on the road to Syracuse. That's a losable game. They should win the game. If they don't win that game, then that's going to give us indication that Purdue's not as good as we thought. But that's a reasonably difficult game that you have to game plan for. That's a difficult opponent versus Michigan playing nobody non-conference. But there is Ohio State and Michigan State to deal with for the Wolverines. All right, Michael. Appreciate you being here. All right. Now we go to the West Coast. Eric, thank you so much for hanging in for us.
No, this is Aiden from Columbus.
Whoa.
How are you?
Oh, we got Aiden from Columbus.
Yeah, I'm a huge Wolverines fan, and I just think that Ohio is just gonna,
Yeah.
But no, that is true. I'm not actually over there at all, and I don't understand the rivalry to any intimate extent. But Ohio State has run this rivalry for so long, for the last decade or whatever, that it probably really did upset them. It probably really is bulletin board material. This is not a rivalry I participate in, obviously, but I bet you Ohio State's pretty mad. I bet Ryan Day is pretty angry, and I think that's going to be a tough game for Michigan coming in. It's not just the shoe. It's the shoe after you beat them last year.
Yeah. I don't doubt any of that, but I just can't believe that there is a fan of a team that's ranked in the top 5 in the country that just won a Big Ten championship and beat its rival by 2 touchdowns last year that gives their team absolutely no chance of winning that game.
I mean, that's how I feel as an Oregon fan lately, like seeing all the Georgia coverage. I mean, not even Oregon fans are giving us a chance. It's I know there's a reasonable level where, like, yeah, we just want to keep it competitive, but it's a little bit disheartening to see, like,
especially since your fan base didn't give your team a chance going to Ohio State last year.
Yeah, I've made that comparison multiple times. It's there's a very delicate balance to strike between being reasonable and hedging your bets, hedging your expectations, and knowing what you're capable of at the same time.
So, Eric, we want to focus on your team, not to cut you off. I'm sorry. We want to focus on your team, but let me make one more point about this Ohio State-Michigan deal, is that understand that Ohio State's obsessed with Michigan, even beating them every year. Now, the obsession of, we should understand this with any rivalry, the obsession or the importance between the players, the coaches, the administration, the fan base, all those could be on different levels. They don't necessarily are in sync with each other. The fans may be out of their minds, obsessed with the rivalry, and the players, I grew up in California, I don't care. It's just another game. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to be ready for it. They're a good team, but it's like playing somebody else. But Ohio State, this, I don't know if this should be admired or it's disgusting, sickening, ridiculous, but Ohio State has maintained obsession with Michigan, even beating them year after year after year. You walk into the football offices and the football center, and they've got clocks to the Michigan game. They count down. They're all over the place, even dominating. Think of Oregon beating Oregon State 15 out of 16 years.
I mean, it's pretty close to that, but yeah, I gotcha.
But being obsessed that no.
They're an afterthought. They're an afterthought.
Yes, exactly. Michigan is not an afterthought with Ohio State, even after dominating the series for almost 20 years.
Well, I mean, you have a lot. I mean, and you understand this, of course, but you have a lot different set of circumstances there. I mean, Oregon State is not a powerhouse. Oregon State's not going to the playoffs and keeping you out of the playoffs, typically. So, yeah, that's obviously different. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Again, this is a rivalry I'm not super familiar with, but it obviously means a lot to both teams, and it's no coincidence that it's called the biggest rivalry in football, or one of the biggest, year in and year out. So,
well, Eric, what's on your mind? Anything else? I delivered an Oregon Georgia preview. I don't know if you had a chance to hear it, but
yeah, I did. I watched it. I'm trying to consume a lot of that media, and actually, I don't know if he's in the chat anymore, but Mikey G,
okay,
normal. He's got a little Oregon duck.
Yeah,
he's very obviously an Oregon fan.
There he is.
Yep, there he is. He has some, and I didn't know this until last night. I was just perusing YouTube, and he has some excellent content.
Okay.
And he has a breakdown of this game, and he goes player by player, position group by position group, and it's really excellent stuff. I was beating myself up that I hadn't looked at his stuff before.
That blows me away.
Obviously, I mean,
Mikey G, get on over to Mikey G's YouTube channel if you like Oregon football.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what's on my mind is the Georgia game, and I think the upper hand that we do have, and this is going to get misconstrued. There's going to be people in the comments saying that, you know, Georgia's going to blow us out like 40 points. That's fine. But the thing that the upper hand that we do have is that not even Oregon fans know what our scheme on either side of the ball will be. Like, I don't know if we're running a 3-4 or a 4-3. I don't know if we're playing under center. I mean, honestly, like at this point, Ty Thompson could run out on the first snap, and I'd be surprised. But, you know, I haven't really gotten a ton of intel, and I'm not at the practices. But even Eric Scopel, Jared Mack, Max Torres, other people that do have some access will tell you very similar things. Like, we don't know what's going on at all. So you hope that means that Georgia has no idea what's going on at all as well. So that is one upper hand we may have. And, you know, it's going to be a game. So many people are so quick to just call it as it is, or, you know, that's a lot of college football fans earlier in the season that, you know, you just count, you just pencil it in, and you take a look at the schedule and say W, 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 and then we fast forward to the playoffs. And that's really not how it works. There's going to be upsets every week. There's going to be things that happen. And I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to win this game, but I think we have a much better chance than what the current narrative says.
I have to admit, I'm starting to think that myself, because I have been in the camp the entire offseason of I'm not needing to think about that game, analyze that game, anything. Georgia's going to cover. They're good. This game has 38-14 written all over it. There's your game. I'm going to rethink that. I am rethinking that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's a certain level of analysis where you're correct, and like you look at a schedule and say this is probably what's going to happen, but there's also the X's and O's and what happens on the field, and the players, do they come in playing loose? Do they come in nervous? Like, there's just so much that happens during a season that these people that are just saying, you know, Georgia's 12-0 or Bama's 12-0, and, you know, to be totally fair, they have the highest likelihood of being those teams. They really do, and that's totally fair. But I sometimes I feel like there's a lack of respect given to like the Saturday game. Like, let's, we'll talk all about it after the games are played, and it's probably going to go a certain way, and smart people that analyze these things like yourself know that. But there's a lot of wiggle room.
I'm glad you made the statement you just did, because I say that every so often. I haven't said it in a long time because we've not been in the midst of the season, but I've told people, just enjoy your team's games, regardless of how good you think they are, or that they only play 3 games a year, and those are the only 3 games to really get up for. If you're an Ohio State fan, okay, well, fortunately for them, yeah, there's a big game week 1, but that normally doesn't exist to that degree. But it's like these Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, fill in the blank fans, that's certainly at the top end, are like, okay, well, we got about 3 games to worry about, and the rest of them are just kind of fillers that, they don't care about, they don't want to talk about, they just don't want to just enjoy. I think we just need to enjoy all of it. Just enjoy whatever it is. Yes, there are going to be blowouts, games that, we're going to be halfway through the first quarter and you can flip to another game, enjoy another game. But yes, that's your point. There are going to be upsets.
On the other end of the spectrum, there are going to be games that we thought were going to be in the latter camp, and they end up being monumental to the conference or to the playoff picture. And just like exactly what you said, it's just a shame. Like, there are 12, like the beauty of college football, and I'm young-ish, like the beauty is that like the regular season is awesome. Like all 12 games, like all 12 of those regular games are awesome, and they can all have implications, especially when you think they might not. So that's about it. I usually come in here with notes and like things to tease fan bases about, but I just wanted to jump in and rattle that off for a second. So I really appreciate your time, Mark.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you being here as always. This is a college football fan right here. Vandy Dandy. I enjoy 2-10 seasons. He might be saying that tongue-in-cheek, but I think he's saying that tongue-in-cheek, but I also believe that that's being stated in truth. I think there's a little bit of both there, basically saying, I enjoy 2-10 seasons, but also because of the plight of my team, because of our status in college football, you know what? I've been forced to enjoy 2-10 seasons, so I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy. I'm not going to expect much. I'm going to hope for the best. I hope to see an improved product. I hope to see a developing program. I hope to see all those things that you would expect from the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. And then just hopefully I will see better than that, and I can have hope for the future, but I'm just going to choose. You ever hear the term, I chose in this situation to be happy? I am choosing to be happy. That's really not the right word for it, because happy comes from the word happenstance, meaning your circumstances. Oh, you just won the lottery, you're happy. You just got a promotion, you're happy. Oh, you just lost a zillion dollars, or your dog just died, you're not happy. It's based on happenings, happenstance. That dictates whether you're happy. Now, whether you have joy or not, that's a choice. I'm going to have joy. I'm going to have an optimistic outlook here, despite A, B, and C. And that, for the Vandy fan, is I realize that the college football season could be and will be painful, but I'm going to choose to just enjoy the football, enjoy watching really good football games, or maybe just enjoying football games. There you go. J-Dub's on the line to talk some football.
How we doing, Mark? To go along with Vandy Dandy's sentiment,
Fandy
A
Dandy.
good friend of mine, he was
Yep.
a basketball player in high school. I was not. He ended up going to the University of Illinois and graduated, and he lives in a rather swanky suburb of Chicago and makes about a 90-minute drive to Champaign. Every year, he has season tickets for Illini basketball, which is what he really wants, what he really covets. And he also has season tickets for Illini football. Now, he's seen some pretty good basketball over the years, but the football has been more or less horrible with a few years scattered here and there. And he's got to wait for those, like 2 years ago, they stunned Wisconsin. You know, a couple of years ago, they got Ohio State. I mean, you know, the once in a whiles, you know, but he's one of those fans, like, you know, we are who we are, and I'm still going to enjoy the fanfare, the festivities, the tailgating, the fun, the experience of college football. I, being a Bama fan and a Bama grad, I'm not one of those Bama people that look at Tennessee, LSU, and Auburn and ignore the rest of the schedule. I freak out every single week. I absolutely have aneurysms every single week because I'm looking, and I know it's going to sound arrogant, but I'm looking at a big prize, and I want nothing to get in the way. So every single game is absolutely critical for me. Ole Miss means as much as A&M. Arkansas means as much as Auburn. LSU and Vanderbilt mean the same thing because they're all notches on the belt as we move forward. And it drives me crazy when I run into Bama fans that they're real passionate. I mean, they're all Roll Tide and they've got all their crimson gear and all this crap. And yet they really only care about those, like you mentioned, those 2 or 3 games. You know, I know there are Iowa fans you can go to any fan base. You know, there are Iowa fans who would like the Hawkeyes, but they really only care about Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, and they don't really care about anybody else. You know, do you call them the casual fans? Is that your term for them?
I'm not really talking about casual fans. I'm talking about ardent fans, but they kind of suffer through all the other games. They're always looking ahead and again, I understand. I'm not blaming them to a certain extent because if you do watch and are a fan of certain programs like yours, then I get only thinking there might be 3 or 4 games worthwhile. So I'm not talking about the casual fan that only tunes in the last couple of weeks in November or if there's a really big game. No, I'm talking about like diehard fans, but they just are annoyed by all the games except for 3.
Right. I just think that, you know, as a Bama fan, I graduated in 1989. I had the great selfish pleasure of being able to watch a couple of linebackers you may have heard of, Cornelius Bennett and Derek Thomas, have their collegiate careers play out in front of me. But those teams never made the Sugar Bowl. And that's all we wanted to do, was just win the SEC and make the Sugar Bowl. When we won it in 92, I was 3 years out of school, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, we won it. We can do it without Bear. But then I had to sit through 17 years before we did it again. You know, now we got a whole generation of Bama fans that don't know that. All they know is playoffs Bama, playoffs Bama, playoffs Bama, playoffs Bama. They don't remember the okay, hey, 8-3. That's all right. That's compared to last year. We were 8-3. We're 8-3 again. We're building again. We're building. You know, that's where most of everybody is. You know, not everybody can be up here at the top and while you're up here, enjoy it. I'm enjoying it right now because I've no doubt. You know, some people say, well, it'll disappear when Saban disappears. Well, Bama's long history of look over the decades, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to suddenly be 3-8. That doesn't happen. But will they necessarily be a title contender? Well, no, it can't continue. So enjoy it while it's there, fans. This is not going to be there forever. Somebody's always coming for you. That's what I think Georgia has to look out for this year. You mentioned, you were talking with Eric about Oregon. Nobody giving Oregon a chance at all. Everybody is going to have Georgia circled on their schedule. Georgia will be the most important game all these teams play all year long. And crazy things happen. Bama should have beat A&M. What were they, a 20-point favorite last year? And a guy that can't get a guy that doesn't even stick it after he transfers, has a miracle game and beats them, and they get a block kick, they get a kick return, they get, the insane can happen at any time. That's why you got to pay attention every week, fans. It's not just the big three; it's one of those little ones that's going to kill you.
Yeah. And I got to say, going through the college football schedule, and we may do this one night, we got to do it soon. We may sit here and just go through the whole schedule. And I don't mean we're going to look at every Washington State, Eastern Washington game. I'm talking about we'll pull up week 1 and say, what do we think? What do we think? There are going to be upsets. Where are they? And go through the entire schedule.
Last year I thought Bama would probably be a playoff team. I thought they'd be 11-1, but that they would lose the Iron Bowl. And they went 11-1, but it was A&M. This year I think they're a stronger team. On paper, I like them to run the table. Would I be surprised if they lost a conference game along the way? No, because it happens. It's just so hard to run the table and not have that one game where you're just a little bit off and the other guy is playing his lights out and he gets a lucky break. His quarterback has the game of his life. There's an insane bounce on a fumble. There's an Iowa State Clemson tipped pass that gets caught and returned for a pick six. There's something crazy going to happen. And it's going to happen to more than one team. And everybody's going to go, oh my God, how the hell? But that's the beauty of it. You just hope to God it's not your team that's on the wrong end of that. Like, in 2015, when what are the odds that Alabama under Nick Saban is going to have 5 turnovers in a game? Well, they did, and Ole Miss beat them in Bryant-Denny. The insane can happen. It's improbable, but improbable is not impossible.
Then, what was really improbable was that Ole Miss took him again the next year.
Yep. It had never happened in the history. I think that was the first time in the entire history of that rivalry, 80-some games. I believe that was the first time, or maybe only the second time, that Ole Miss had won on back-to-back years. Of course, then the next time it was 66-3, but they did get the 2 in a row. I mean, it can happen. Saban hadn't lost to an assistant. Last year, who did he lose to? He lost to 2. Alabama had won 35 straight against the SEC East. They get to Indianapolis, they lose the Natty. I mean, streaks are meant to be broken. What doesn't need to break is your memory of hitting the Amazon link when you go to shop. You see, the experience doesn't change. It's the same shopping experience, but you get the satisfaction of knowing that just a little bit of that cheddar falls on Mark's plate and not into the ginormous infinity that is the bank account that is Jeff Bezos. So don't forget the link. Don't forget the thumbs up. Thanks, Mark.
J-Dub, we appreciate it. J-Dub delivers that promo of sorts with a little flair, a lot of flair, and a different delivery and a different writing style each and every time. He keeps that thing fresh. It's impressive. It is impressive. It's kind of like the new sponsor that we have on the Nebraska and Iowa shows that we present 2 or 3 times per hour during those 2 particular live streams. Our friends over at Gene Arthur Insurance, and that's what I did after reading that through twice. I thought, okay, well, I can't read this 3 times an hour. We're going to have to mix it up, and we're going to have to improvise a little bit, of course. We are dropping show link back in the chat here for everyone. So please join the show. And I encourage a lot of people that don't join us on a regular basis out of a 156 on the line that we would love to hear from you for the first time. And if you don't want to have your camera on, you certainly have that option to have your camera on. But as you see with the number of calls coming in, we can treat them just like phone calls. And just so we've got the audio, that's all we need to talk college football with all of you. So yeah, I've been thinking the last few days what needs to be accomplished and what we need to hit before we kick off the season. And one idea was, do we open up a live stream and just carve through the entire season and just go week to week, all the way from week 1 through the end of November into December, and see, because boy, I am looking at predictions right now, and I just started to write them out, and I'm going to give the quick, so it's pretty much a blank page at this point, but got to find some upsets. You got to find some things that are going to happen. Wake Forest Pitt played in the ACC championship game last year. Baylor and Oklahoma State played in the Big 12 championship game last year. So if we want to play it safe, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. That's the playoff. Well, could that be the playoff? Of course it could be. And if I truly believe that that is going to be the playoff, then that is the playoff prediction I'm going to deliver. I really want to figure something else out, though. I really want to figure out who's going to jump up. It seems ridiculous that as we came to you live a few days ago with the AP preseason poll, that last year, 13 of those 25 preseason top 25 teams did not finish ranked. Now, if you look at the top 25 teams in the preseason poll, it seems almost impossible to find 13 teams that won't make it. Now, I went back through the previous 5 years, and 13 is the high water mark. So we do not expect 13 of the preseason top 25 to not finish ranked, but it's always 8, 9, 10. It's usually in that range, 8 to 10. So find those teams that are going to underachieve. Now, a few of them were somewhat understandable. Maybe a preseason top 24, a number 24 ranked preseason team that they went 8-5. They were 9-4, but they just didn't get ranked. So that really wasn't a miss by the preseason poll. But most of them were huge misses. Most of them were LSU preseason number 13 going 6-7. Florida preseason number 11 going 6-7. Most of them were that. Chris Mason says, kill the pack. I also would love all of you, and I'll probably have to actually deliver this content as a live stream or a video first before you really get the hang of what we're searching for here. But I would like to deliver some content called accountability. And it's basically going to be holding, whether that be most of the time, coaches or media members accountable for what they say. For things that they say that are inaccurate, things that they say that are implausible, I mean completely irrational, illogical, or making crazy guarantees that don't happen, holding people accountable for their words. Now, we're not going to be mean. We're not going to be mean-spirited. We're not going to be nitpicky. No, but truly, for example, So this idea hit me way back 20 years ago. This idea, actually, for accountability, let's make ourselves a banner to drive home the point here. This idea hit me about 20 years ago in a control room at ESPN, because I had seen, and ESPN's phenomenal. They do a great job. They have researchers. Everything's almost airtight, but mistakes will be made. So I'm not talking about there was a typo on the bottom line and we need to hold somebody accountable for that. Okay, that's a mistake. This was during the time in which Tom Brady was launching a historic career, the greatest quarterbacking career in the history of football. And Drew Henson, who had been the starting quarterback at Michigan in 2000, was looking for an NFL team. That's when he was making the decision to be between baseball and football. And ESPN NFL people consistently brought up Tom Brady's name in comparing Drew Henson to Tom Brady, and that Drew Henson needs to play football because he is this amazing quarterback, which all of that is true and was true at the time. What they screwed up consistently was saying that Drew Henson beat Tom Brady out for the starting job at Michigan, and that he was the starting quarterback in 1999 for Michigan football. It's not the case. And I would buzz down, sitting in a control room, I would buzz down to the producer and say, why are they talking about Drew Henson being the starting quarterback in Michigan in 1999? He was not the starting quarterback in Michigan in 99. It was Tom Brady. And it hit me right there and then. And I started then taking a notepad, famous for notepads. And this is when we had computers, of course, 20 years ago, but it wasn't like everything got just recorded on a computer. And I kept a notepad with me at all times as I was doing my regular job. But I thought, every time I hear something or see something that is inaccurate, I'm going to make a note of it. Every time we, and at the time it was we, meaning ESPN, report something inaccurate, I'm going to just jot it down. They said this, that's not accurate. They said this, they're discussing this, that's not accurate. And then I took it home and did the same thing. I'd be watching the games on Fox or on ABC, CBS, wherever, both NFL and college football games and studio shows. That's when I consumed studio shows more, because it was actually part of my job, but also at home. And I was constantly like, okay, he just said that happened. No, it did not. That did not happen. They did not win that game, or they didn't, whatever it was. And I just filled up notebooks with things being inaccurate. And I thought, and I actually contacted somebody at ESPN and pitched a show and said, we should hold our analysts accountable. We can call the show Accountability, and we're not going to be mean. We're going to understand that everybody makes a mistake, but we're going to show that we're not afraid to hold ourselves accountable and show that we make mistakes, but we are big enough to admit to those mistakes and correct them. No, they weren't going to do that, but we'll do it. And you can all hold me accountable as well. Falcon Rex, thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Keep in mind that in less than 45 minutes, we'll be on the Miami channel going live with our Canes coverage. Miami Hurricanes live every Thursday night at 8 Eastern Time. J-Dub, no, we don't. We don't live in an age of accountability. However, we don't have to go along with everyone else. We can try to restore some accountability. And Malachi, bingo! Yes, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, oh, Stephen A said, what? Nope, that's incorrect. Stick to the NBA. That's not right. Yes, there was a lot of that. Yes. There was a lot of that. So, for example, a few weeks ago, this is what rekindled my idea, was that I was on Twitter, and Rich Eisen had made the comment, and I have a ton of respect for Rich Eisen. I've always thought him to be a more than capable, excellent anchor, formerly ESPN, NFL Network now. But it was brought to my attention that he said on his show, and I don't watch his show on a regular basis, I see it maybe 3 times a year, that with the news that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten, that all meaningful rivalries in the Big Ten were connected to Michigan. Outside of Michigan, there were no meaningful rivalries in the Big Ten. Now, that statement was either made out of arrogance or it was made out of ignorance. I don't know which, but regardless, it's not accurate. You can downplay or criticize or put down certain rivalries as not being, certain college football fans are, of course, elitists. And if you're not Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, then, Oregon State, that's not a rivalry, it's garbage. Okay, you can think that, and you can be in that camp that you don't want to acknowledge those rivalries, but don't call them non-rivalries. They are just as much rivals. Those are just as, we would place those in the category of rivalry just as much as Ohio State and Michigan. It's just not as big. It's not as important nationally. It doesn't garner as much attention, but Indiana and Purdue are true rivals. So to say that there are no rivalries in the Big Ten outside of Michigan, well, that's an unreasonable comment to make. It's an irresponsible comment to make. And I tweeted back at him, and he took down his post because I think he had enough people, me included, certainly, because I really went to town on Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, Iowa, and Indiana, Purdue as rivalries that are legit. So, holding people accountable. We may produce some type of weekly live stream or weekly video on that. We shall see. We've got way too many things to do, but that came to mind. Okay. You can join the show, talk to me, talk some college football. We are here, and we'll be here tomorrow night as well at some point. So make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, and please hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live. I am going to roll out a in-season schedule, which is going to be rather aggressive, but we're going to do our best to be here. A lot. So we are going to release an in-season schedule here in the next week or so. And also, we'd like to announce that we are starting a Big Ten podcast, audio podcast. So maybe some of you on the Ohio State channel or on the Nebraska channel have seen the posts that I have sent out. And that is most likely going to be, I haven't completely settled on the name or the logo, but you got a glimpse at the name and the logo there. That's what I'm looking at right now. But I just wanted to make sure that the word started to get out there. So you will not see this on YouTube, although I will probably take a clip of it and just to let people know that we are on all those audio platforms. So I was pleased. I was honored to be asked by College Football Coast to Coast. It's a new college football undertaking and that I was not aware of, but they contacted me a few weeks ago, College Football Coast to Coast, and they asked me to do a Big Ten podcast. So I said, absolutely, I will. They said, it looks like you're too busy to do one, but we would still like you to do one. And I said, you know what? I am too busy. But sometimes when you have the opportunity to do something that you would like to do and that could be beneficial, then if you've got 83 things on your plate and you can't handle all of them, then you brush aside 20 of them to do the things that are important. So we would like to deliver a Big Ten podcast here every week, and we will give you more details soon on our new venture, delivering a Big Ten podcast every week on audio. Malachi, you've got nothing to worry about. This is going to be a calculated podcast. This is going to be in-depth and fair and hard-hitting. It's going to be all of that. Not biased, not that. No. Just trying to figure out the best way to make it unique. We want to make it insightful, unique, interesting, cutting edge. And I apologize for the bot that's in the live chat that I've not been able to eliminate at this point. So if we've got a mod somewhere, please eliminate this trash in the live chat because it's not letting me do it. This is what annoys me sometimes about YouTube, that I've got this channel and then I got bots in the chat, and every time I go to delete it, it gives me an error message and says an error occurred. Try refreshing the page. If I refresh the page, I'm going to knock us right off the air. So we can't do that. All right, Antoine, we're going to answer that question in just a second. But again, everybody, we're going to have a Big Ten podcast that's going to launch the first week of the season, and I will keep you updated on where to find that and what it's named and all of that. And if you have any ideas of what you would like on the podcast, then that just doesn't necessarily mean only guests. Yes, I'm going to have guests, but we want it to be more than just what we do here. It needs to be unique and different. So I'm thinking of a few different ways to make that happen, and I will take all of your suggestions. So Big Ten podcast coming your way to start the season, and stay tuned for additional info on that. Antoine asks, hey, Mark, what team in college football has the most rivals? Well, I'm going to go to the SEC first and foremost and think, okay, well, Georgia, legitimate rivals, because at times, excuse me just a second. At times, some college football fans believe that if you're in the same conference, you're rivals. So Clemson, Florida State, is that a rivalry? Our Florida State guys tell us Clemson is not a rival. I believe that it's become a rivalry. They play in the same division. for a number of years. They were the two best teams in the conference by far. They decided the conference. It became a rivalry. Is it still a rivalry? It can be debated. But I'm talking about true rivals. Let's go to the SEC, Antoine, because I believe Georgia's got Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina is a difficult one. Is South Carolina a rival of Georgia? And then, of course, Georgia has Auburn and Georgia Tech. So there's 4 legit rivals for Georgia. Tennessee has Vandy, Kentucky, Georgia, Florida. Tennessee has 4. Anybody else in the SEC? Auburn. Auburn is Alabama, Georgia. Okay, that's it. Florida. Florida State. What about Miami? There's also an interesting conversation to have about rivals that don't always play. Texas A&M. Now, here is one of the more interesting discussions concerning rivals that you're going to have, because for years and years and years, of course, Texas and Texas A&M were rivals. That was a top 10 rivalry in the country, but then they stopped playing. So did they cease being rivals just like that? Well, if they did, you know what? They're going to start playing again every year. So Texas A&M, are they rivals? Well, at one point 15 years ago, absolutely. Now, depends on your perspective. Are they going to be in 2 or 3 years? Yes. Again, Arkansas, Texas, rivals in the old Southwest Conference forever. But Arkansas left in 92. Are they still rivals? They don't usually play. They've played about 4 times in 30 years. They're going to be rivals again. At least they're going to be in the same conference. Antoine, your team, Michigan, rivals, Ohio State, Michigan State. I think that's it. Some people would say Penn State. Okay, Notre Dame. They don't play anymore. Who has the most rivals? So I've come up with 2 teams that have 4. There we've got Gary talking about South Carolina with Clemson and Georgia. The other teams in the SEC Eastern Division don't necessarily seem to be rivals to that degree for South Carolina. Oh, Ben, sorry. There we go. That's another example right there. Michigan and Minnesota, rivals for years and years and years and years. Are they still rivals? Well, there is still the little brown jug, and for traditionalists like myself, Michigan, Minnesota, a rivalry. But the Big Ten did not consider it to be so important that they continued the series, right? Nope. So if a rivalry is not big enough or important enough for the conference to deem it a rivalry that is going to be played every year, then is it really that important? Herschel says that just because one team is afraid to play the other team does not make the hate stop, referring to Texas A&M, and Miami and Florida. So in the first instance, I don't believe that any one of those 2 particular teams is afraid to play the other. Miami and Florida, it could be argued by Canes fans, and I know that it is, that Florida is afraid to play Miami. But understand that Miami does not have to deal with the SEC. The comparison between the 2 conferences is a joke. So Florida also plays Florida State every year. So Miami fans and Gator haters may not want to hear this, but Florida's in a situation where they play an SEC schedule. They play Florida State. So if they always played Miami, then that would be their schedule every year. They would have the same schedule every year. Do college football teams want to have the same schedule every year? I don't think that they should. But when you already have a rival that you play every year and it's a top-notch program, which Florida State used to be and should be again at some point, then why would Miami or Florida always play Miami and Florida State, and then it's never going to play another team like it's played in recent years? Michigan. Who else has Florida played out of conference that's a good opponent? Michigan. Who else has Florida played out of conference? Of course, nobody out of the state of Florida on campus. They don't do that. BGPO Football Funk, appreciate you being here. Where's the link? Okay. Sounds like DeAndre wants to talk some college football. Here we go, DeAndre. All right. For anyone who wants to talk, the lines are open, as you can see. I used to get a lot more callers when we went with the call-in system, though. That's the only thing. This is so much easier. Doesn't cost anything, and it's so much easier. But, and you guys tell me that you can hear the callers better. So we do like that. So nothing but pluses, except for the lines used to always be jammed. Oh, no link attached. Sorry about that. And keep in mind, one more time, Big Ten Podcast is coming soon. That is not going to be the name of it, but we're kicking around a few names, but just wanted to let everyone know that, yeah, I've been asked by College Football Coast to Coast to do a Big Ten podcast, a weekly Big Ten podcast, and we are going to get on that very soon. That will be debuting before the season starts. We do have David Greenshield on the line to talk some college football with us. David, how you doing?
Hey, Mark, how you?
Oh, we lost David. I don't know what happened there. We will go to DeAndre. DeAndre, what's going on today?
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man?
I'm good. What you got going on?
I heard you just say something about Miami or Florida not playing, and I think we had this conversation a long time ago. That I don't know when you're talking about Florida and Michigan playing each other, but it's very rarely that Florida plays big time non-conference schedule unless they play Miami. I think the last time they played non-conference game outside the state of Florida was, I think we looked it up, it was Michigan State, 1989, correct?
They played at Syracuse 2 years later, 91.
91. So that's the last time they played the big time non-conference schedule. But I bring that up to say, I know you say that.
DeAndre, that's the last time they played outside the state of Florida non-conference. That's what that is. That is the last time that Florida played out of conference outside the state of Florida. Not the last time they played a non-conference game, a big-time opponent. You still with us, DeAndre?
But I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Okay. You're cutting out. We see you okay, but you're cutting out.
All right. So my next question is, I saw the Big Ten get their big deal, $7 billion, right?
Yes, at least. That's the floor. It could go higher.
I bring up a point that I brought to you a couple weeks ago. Like Wisconsin and Nebraska played each other, and I know both of them have big followings, but the quality of football that they play is kind of boring. Nebraska and Iowa was kind of boring. Big names, but they're kind of boring. So how long do you think this contract is going to last? I mean, it's on paper, so I know it's going to last for a minute, but until people realize that they're really not that exciting to watch.
Okay. DeAndre, first of all, you've stated your opinion.
Right.
So sign me up for watching Wisconsin football every week.
Okay.
So anyway, but I get your opinion. I get your thought. They don't throw the ball much, and they have a certain style of football. They don't run an up-tempo offense. But Wisconsin, we'll take them for an example, but I'm guessing you're going to put Nebraska and you put Iowa in that category, Minnesota.
I put everybody in the Big Ten West, as they currently are called. I'll put
everybody. Okay. But you realize that teams like Wisconsin, especially Wisconsin, but also Iowa, and anybody who's good in the Big Ten West in that particular season, but especially those two teams, they play on national television. They play in premier games that are broadcast on Fox and ESPN and ABC almost the entire season already.
Okay. So me and you are traditionalists. We both love college football, right? We like those school games, 10, all of that. But what
I love a variety.
Okay. But if you go back, you ask a young kid, again, who would they rather go play for? And don't get me wrong, a scholarship is a scholarship. And who's going to watch it on TV? You would rather go watch Wake Forest and Carolina. I mean, I'm just saying, when you look at kids today, I want to spread it around. I want to catch the ball. I want to go 95 feet. I think 100 yards, all this. You don't really want to go play at those schools. And a lot of times people don't want to watch those type of games unless you're a fan of those fans of those programs. And that's what I'm saying about that. I'm not saying you're wrong, and I get it. The Big Ten is in a more populated area. But if you go look at the recruiting classes outside of Ohio State and maybe Michigan, most of the top recruits are going to schools in the South, correct?
Sure.
Okay. But and I know, don't get me wrong, I know Wisconsin, Minnesota, I don't know where that offensive lineman that went, he's 6'9", like 320. I was like, man, I hope the Steelers go get somebody like that. He got to be pretty good somehow. But anyway, I'm gonna let you go after this. So I was looking at bowl games back in the 1980s, 1990s era. So I think Alabama was like 12-1, and then.
Okay, DeAndre, back up. We just missed everything you just said in the last 15 seconds.
Okay, so I was looking at Alabama bowl bracket back in the day, and one year there was 12-1. They went to the Blockbuster Bowl, right? And then another year there was 7-5. They played Louisville in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe, or the Sugar Bowl, and this was in the 90s and 80s.
Yeah.
How did they pick? How did the Fiesta Bowl pick their people back then?
Well, as you know, in the mid to late 70s, the Fiesta Bowl was an afterthought. It was a new bowl game, but it really took a splash around its first really big matchup was Ohio State and Penn State in 1980. Okay, we're going to let DeAndre go. So we're not going to give a long history to the Fiesta Bowl because I don't think that's why people are here. But basically, the Fiesta Bowl was smart enough to be able to gather enough money, get enough sponsorships to then make a big splash. And there was no conference affiliation with the Fiesta Bowl until the mid 90s with the Big 12. But the Fiesta Bowl was just able to pay out a ton of money. So big schools started to sign up to play in the Fiesta Bowl. Pretty much what it came down to. So starting in 1980, you had an Ohio State, Penn State Fiesta Bowl. The next year you had Penn State and USC with Heisman Trophy winner Marcus Allen in the Fiesta Bowl. You had Oklahoma, Arizona State played a Fiesta Bowl in 83, on and on and on and on. Then, of course, they secured the national championship matchup, Penn State and Miami. They kind of lucked into that. So it was a combination of money, but also there were no conference affiliations because those were two independents. So for those of you who are new to college football or fairly young, consider a day and age 35 years ago when not just Notre Dame was an independent, Notre Dame, South Carolina, Louisville, West Virginia, Boston College, Penn State, Miami, Florida State, and more, Virginia Tech, and others were all independents. All right. Next up here, the voice of college football, we got David on the line. David.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
I'm good, David. What's going on tonight?
Not much. I wanted to continue our conversation we had about Big Ten football from the last time we spoke. I had gotten cut off from you before I got to talk about the best team in the Big Ten. We all know who that is. But I was going to finish my thought on how good I think Michigan could be this year. I still stand by what I said. I think from an offensive standpoint, and I know Dace has been talking up their team to you on his podcast, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I do think from an offensive standpoint, with the two backs they've got, in Quorum and Edwards, and with a pretty good offensive line, and McNamara back at quarterback, although I think McNamara is kind of a middle-tier Big Ten quarterback. I still think they can be as good, maybe even a little bit better offensively than they were a year ago. Do you think that McCarthy takes over that job, though, for them before the end of the year, or what are your thoughts on that?
So Steve Dace had made that prediction that J.J. McCarthy will be the starting quarterback at some point in the season. And I really believe that Jim Harbaugh, if that's where he's headed, needs to make that call either week one, right out of the gate, say J.J. McCarthy won the job in August camp, or let the 3 non-conference games serve as a quarterback battle, a continued quarterback competition, and hope that McCarthy wins the job after 3 games and has the better numbers and proves to be the better player. That's all I'll say about it, is that I would tend, and I don't see practice, and I don't know which quarterback's doing what they're asked to do, but that McCarthy's the better player. He's got the higher ceiling, and I would look for every opportunity to make him the starting quarterback.
I would tend to agree. I think, and you put up their schedule the last time we talked, I think they do have the luxury of such a cupcake schedule that they've got some games where they can kind of sort that out. So they're probably not in a bad position to probably take the first few games, I would think, and sort that out, wouldn't you?
Oh, sure they do. They get 3 scrimmages, and then they've got Maryland.
Right. By the way, I still stand by what I'm saying. Wouldn't you agree they're going to be hard pressed to be as good in every defensive category, losing their 3 best players on defense?
Oh, I don't think they're going to be as good on defense. I don't see it. Their 3 best players, and also that doesn't even include their leading tackler. But other people say otherwise.
Yeah, that's where I've got a disagreement with Dace. I could see them being as good or maybe better offensively, but I just can't see them losing all those key defensive players and being as good across the board statistically on defense. That's where I pretty much come down. I did want to get to Ohio State because I didn't get a chance to talk to you about them last time. I have a good feeling about this defense that it's going to be improved. I hate to put pressure on two sophomores, but when it comes right down to it, I just think that JTT and Sawyer have to have really good years for this defense to make a big leap at the defensive end position. I mean, is your bottom line thinking is that they've got to get at least solid production out of those guys and possibly Zach Harrison for this defense to make a step up? I mean, they don't have to be Bosa or Chase Young good, but they have to be, I believe, somewhere around a 10-sack type level production for us to maybe make a bigger step up defensively. What do you think?
Well, I think that this is the season in which the Bosa brothers did take that step. And it's unreasonable to expect anyone to reach that level, regardless of their star ranking coming out of high school, saying that they could become that. Of course, they could become that, but that's, those two guys are two of the best defensive end prospects to reach the NFL in the last decade, but and Chase Young included, three of them. But right. they need to be impact players. I think they will be impact players, and they are the two guys that I think are, with all the issues in the back seven, I still think that those two guys, along with Zach Harrison, are the most important part of this defense, because I think with a wrecking crew of a defensive front, then you can cover up a lot of ills and issues. And, after this program produced the level of defensive back that it did for all these years through 2019, it's a bit disappointing that there were 2 consecutive years in which there was really no outstanding player in the secondary. And a lot of people looked at Denzel Burke as that guy, but he wasn't. He just was a guy that showed some flashes in a sea of mediocrity in the secondary. So unless somebody really steps up and maybe he's the guy and somebody else, for whatever reason, this Ohio State defensive secondary is going to go through another season of not being anything close to what it had been on a regular basis for the previous 15 years or more.
Right. Well, because obviously the luxury we had in 2019, the last top-notch defense we had, is we had the best pass rusher and I believe defensive player in the country in Chase Young, but then we also had the secondary to go along with it. The Okudas, the Arnett's, guys like that. Now, I think this secondary this year will be good. It's obviously not going to be anywhere close to that level, but I think it can be a good secondary. I think their safety level of play with guys like Proctor, McAllister, the transfer, they've got a couple other guys in there that I think can be solid players. So I think their safety level of play, I think their secondary can be good. I still think their linebacker play can be between good, slightly above average to good. But if you remember, when we had a great defense in 2019, we didn't have great linebacker play that year. We had pretty good linebacker play, but that defense was pretty much built on the D-line and then the secondary. So, I mean, I agree with you. It's tough to put the defense in the hands of pretty much 3 defensive ends, but those are the guys that have to be able to produce this year. I would ask you this question, though, too, Mark. And this has kind of been bantied around on some of the Ohio State sites. With as good as the Ohio State offense is going to be this year, how highly ranked does this defense need to be? Does it need to at least be top 30, top 20 to win a national championship? How high do you think they need to be rated?
Well, they need to be respectable against the better competition. So I don't want to put a ranking on it. I will, to answer your question, because most likely the ranking will reflect how good they are. But I think it's going to go deeper than that. It's going to be are they getting pushed around by Michigan the last game of the season? Are they, getting pushed around in week 1 against Notre Dame? Those are really the two big tests, I think, to their manhood are going to be those two games, and they didn't pass that test last year. So I'm going to be able to tell a lot by the Notre Dame game. But to put it into statistical terms, I think they need to be in the top 30.
Okay. Because I don't know if you have it handy. I mean, because obviously, I think Georgia was a little bit of an outlier last year, where the dominant unit was the defensive side of the ball, winning the national championship, as compared to the two previous national champions, where the dominant unit was the offensive side of the football, with a good, but you say not great defense for 2020 Alabama and 2019 LSU. I'm not sure where those statistically both of those defenses ranked, but probably top 30, top 20, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU and Alabama both played better defense at the end of the year than they did early in the year. I remember that much.
Yep. Absolutely. Those were going to be my 2 points. I did not commit this to memory, but I know that I've looked it up several times, and they were both in that 20 to 25 range, something there. And they did play much better, especially they really both played better. Aside from Alabama getting chewed up in the SEC championship game in 2020 by Kyle Trask and company, they did improve. Well, David, I need to wrap it up here. So appreciate you being here. All right. Let's see. 4 minutes from now, Miami football talk. We want to hit the real MVP. Let's do that. Hey, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I know you've got to wrap it up, so I'll leave it short and quick. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm looking at the AP top 25, and I see Miami getting into the top 10 this season before it's all said and done, maybe even top 5.
To finish the year?
No. At some point, they will be in the top 5.
At some point. Okay. Yeah.
I think because they got the Clemson game super late in the season, that'll help them out. And if they can beat Texas A&M on the road, which I think Texas A&M's overhyped because of the next year's recruiting class, I think they could be in the top 5 after week
3. They could be. I would think that, them starting at number, 16?
Yeah, they're 16.
For them to reach the top 5 in the country, even with a win against Texas A&M's a bit much. I don't know that they're going to be able to, unless other teams drop.
Teams will lose. Teams will lose. And if it's not then they play Middle Tennessee State the next week. I mean, that should be a win. North Carolina, they're inconsistent. That could be a win. They could start off 5, 6, 7, and 0. If they beat that Texas A&M team.
Yeah, they'll get a lot of credit for that on the road. And Texas A&M starts the season at number 7. And then they follow that up with a North Carolina win. They'll get credit for that. Not to the same degree, but UNC is a fringe top 25, 30 team.
Right. So I think the direction of Miami is going to be one of those teams that's going to be like Michigan State. We don't expect a whole lot out of them. We think they're going to be solid, but they're going to surprise a lot of people. And I think they'll make a New Year's Six Bowl this year. And I think they'll be the Michigan State of last year.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah. Clemson and Texas A&M are obviously the most difficult games by far. And like you, if they are to win one of those games, I'm banking on Texas A&M, even though it's a road game. I just think that Texas A&M is mediocre at quarterback, and they're replacing much of their front 7 on defense that was really good, and they'll still be just as talented, but and they lose their best running back.
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I just don't trust Jimbo Fisher as a coach.
Yeah.
I think he's way overrated. I think Mario Cristobal is a better coach. I think Jimbo's one of the best recruiters, but when it comes to the X's and O's on the field, I don't trust him.
Well, I don't think either one of them are geniuses when it comes to game day preparation and execution and adjustments during the game.
That's fine. Well, it'll play itself out on the field.
Yep.
Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, everyone. Appreciate you being here for the Voice of College Football on another Thursday call-in show. We'll be back at some point tomorrow. Keep those notifications alive so you know when we go live with you. And a lot of things coming your way, which include a Big Ten podcast that's going to launch roughly the first week of the season. So be looking out for that. More details to come on a Big Ten podcast. And also, we'll have our 24-hour marathon coming your way, wrapped around opening week of the season. So that Thursday is, of course, a huge night with Pitt, West Virginia, Penn State, Purdue, and other games. And yes, we'll be here for 24 consecutive hours during that time frame. Also, what else? Content coming your way. I've got a Ohio State Notre Dame preview right there. See how hard I've worked on it. Check it out. Ohio State Notre Dame. And of course, my predictions. I've got all of 2 teams filled out of 131, which will accompany our 1 through 131 rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. See you on the Miami channel in 2 minutes.